Hi and welcome back to Spiritual Midwife. I'm Claire Attio and today we're bringing this deeply transformative series on inner child healing to a close. Over the past few weeks we've explored the hidden wounds that shape our adult lives: abandonment, rejection, suppressed anger and unmet emotional needs, just to name a few. And now we arrive at one of the most deceptive and overlooked coping mechanisms of all: over-control. This episode isn't just about letting go, it's about learning to trust. If you've resonated with any of the previous topics in this series, then today's discussion will likely hit home, because over-control is the natural response to an unpredictable or unsafe past. It's what happens when we learn we cannot trust others. So we grip onto life with both hands, trying to force stability, predictability, and certainty. But control is an illusion. And while structure and direction have their place, true peace comes from learning to trust. Trust ourselves, trust the process, and trust that life is unfolding exactly as it should. Welcome to Spiritual Midwife, the podcast that tenderly guides you through the transformative journey of spiritual awakening and personal development towards the ultimate destination of soul sovereignty. I'm Claire Attio, a medicine woman and dedicated guide to the profound realm of soul sovereignty, and you are listening to Spiritual Midwife. So let's start looking at why do we become over-controllers. The need to control stems from fear of uncertainty, fear of being let down, fear of feeling powerless. As children, if we experience inconsistency, chaos, or situations where we weren't allowed to express our emotions freely, we may have internalized the belief that the only way to feel safe was to take charge of everything. This is especially common in those who had to grow up too fast, care for siblings, or take on responsibilities beyond their years. This conditioning follows us into adulthood and shows up in many ways, such as struggling to delegate or trust others to do things right, feeling intense anxiety when things don't go as planned, perfectionism or over-preparing for every possible outcome, controlling relationships, partners, children, friends, often without realizing we're even doing it, avoiding emotional vulnerability because it feels like losing control, feeling restless or unfulfilled even when everything seems absolutely fine. For some, over-control manifests externally: micromanaging, dictating outcomes, trying to manipulate circumstances to avoid discomfort. For others, it's internal: controlling emotions, suppressing needs, and overthinking everything to maintain a sense of order. But here's the truth: the more we try to control life, the less we actually live it. At first glance, being in control might seem like a strength, and in some ways having structure and discipline can be beneficial. But there is a difference between having healthy direction and gripping so tightly that we suffocate the natural flow of life. Over-control comes at a cost. It can lead to chronic stress, anxiety and burnout, strained relationships due to a need for dominance or constant certainty, a lack of spontaneity and joy because everything has to be planned to an inch of its life, feeling discomfort and disconnected from emotions, intuition and creativity. The irony of control is that the more we seek it, the more we feel out of control. If you've been listening to this series, You may have noticed that many of the healing practices I've shared have been repeated across different episodes, and that has been completely intentional. Healing doesn't require a huge toolbox of complicated techniques. In fact, the most powerful healing comes from making small, consistent changes. The kind of changes that over time transform our lives. You don't need to master dozens of different methods. You just need to choose a few simple tools and actually use them. Repetition rewires the brain. Consistency regulates the nervous system. The key is not finding more, it's sticking with what works. So if you've heard these tools before, take that as an invitation to really commit to them. Healing is about practice. It's about taking these simple actions and making them part of your daily life, just like brushing your teeth. So breaking free from the illusion of control, letting go of over-control, isn't about surrendering to chaos. It's about learning to trust. Trust ourselves, trust our choices, trust that no matter what happens, we will handle it. Here are some ways we can begin to loosen our grip and step into a more fluid, peaceful way of being. Practicing micro surrenders. Letting go of control doesn't mean abandoning all responsibility. It starts with small acts of surrender. Try allowing someone else to make a decision. Skip over checking something. Or take a deep breath when plans change instead of reacting immediately. Teach yourself that not everything needs to be controlled to be okay. Every time you let go, you're teaching your nervous system that uncertainty is not a threat. Healing the root cause. Over-control is often linked to old fear and distrust. Many of us learned as children that being vulnerable, asking for help or trusting others was dangerous. Inner child work, therapy or journaling can help uncover the moments when we learned that we had to grip tightly to feel safe. Rewrite the narrative. Remind yourself that you are no longer that helpless child. You are safe now. Somatic work and nervous regulation. Control is not just a mindset. It's a physiological response. The body reacts as if it's still in survival mode. Engaging in breathwork, meditation, yoga, or nature walks helps teach your nervous system that relaxation and surrender are safe. Mindfulness and present moment awareness. Most control stems from anxiety about the future. Ground yourself in the now. Focus on what is rather than what might be. Ask yourself, is there a real problem right now? Or is my mind creating one? Can I trust that this moment is enough? And remind yourself it's not a race. We often control because we believe we should be further along in life. But healing, growth, personal evolution are not competitions. One step a day in the desired direction is enough. Remember the story of the tortoise and the hare? The tortoise won the race, not because it was the fastest, but because it was steady, committed, and didn't let fear dictate its journey. But more importantly, it isn't a race at all. We have our whole lives to evolve, to heal, to shift. There is no rush. And finally, living with trusting flow. Letting go of over-control is one of the greatest acts of self-trust. It is saying, I believe in myself. I believe in life. I believe that I do not need to force, manipulate, or stress over every detail just to feel okay. As we close this series on inner child healing, I want to express my deepest gratitude for you, for showing up, for listening, for doing the work. The more of us that do this, the more power we reclaim back, humanity reclaims back, and that will help us change other dysfunctional paradigms that exist within humanity. Yes, we're doing it for ourselves, but we're also doing it for the collective, the good of all. So as we close this series on inner child healing, if you've found value, take a moment to reflect. What is the biggest lesson I've learned? What small step can I take today towards more trust and less control? Where can I allow myself to surrender, even just a little bit? If today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs it, and be sure to subscribe for the next chapter of Spiritual Midwife. Until next time, release the grip, trust yourselves, and remember, life is meant to be lived, not controlled. You have been listening to Spiritual Midwife, signing off for now.